What up, guys? What up? What up? Just trying to get a few things set up, guys. Running a little bit late. Hey, man. What's up? What's up? Let me make sure you can hear me. Yep, you should be able to hear me. How you going, man? How things going? How's your Friday night going so far? Or I guess, I don't know if it's Friday night for you, but I guess for me it's Friday night. How's your day going so far? Any Friday night plans? I'm doing good, man. I feel good. I actually got my setup. I need to make a video one of these days. But I need to clean up my office and everything. Do some, cable management. So like right now I'm streaming. I'm actually streaming from, so I got my streaming station. And then I have another PC, which is gonna be my, I don't know. You call it my gaming slash, as I do like some of the like tutorial videos and stuff like that. I'm doing it from that computer. So I just finished getting all that set up today, really right before the stream. So I'm kind of running a little bit late. So trying to get everything connected. Messing with audio, so I think I got it working, but I gotta get used to it because again I have like two keyboards now. One keyboard for the streaming PC, and then another keyboard which is for like my main PC, which is where whenever I show my screen, it's gonna be that PC and stuff. Same stuff, just working until 11 p.m. then go to sleep, and have to be at work by 8 a.m. Man, you put in a lot of hours, man. You're going to be up till 11 p.m., then get up again and be at work at 8 a.m. What kind of work do you do? Do you enjoy the work that you're doing thus far? I know I have a few people that have kind of reached out to me, and they're trying to get their foot in the door, right, in like software development. And that's the thing that's it's kind of tricky, man, because even as you learn and you become, in my mind, like good enough where you could contribute, you still need that opportunity, right? You still need somebody to give you a chance, and sometimes it's hard to get that chance, right? Because especially for me, it was kind of frustrating whenever I see certain posts and they're like, yeah, we want a junior web developer, for example, but then they put on their 3 to 5 years experience. Like, dude, that's not a junior web developer. That's just a web developer, period. That's all that is. That's not a junior. Like, why do y'all do that, man? I don't get it. Doesn't make sense. Hey, what's up, man? What's up, Python developer? Hello. Which tequila today? So today I'm actually drinking mezcal. So this is not tequila. It's made out of the same plant, agave, but it's cooked differently. So the way they cook it is not the same, it's different. So I never had it before. I want to taste it to see how good or not good it is, right? Or how does it compare to tequila? But yeah, that's what I'm going to be drinking today. Mezcal Ilegal. That's the name of it. So we'll see if it's good or not. I'm working extra hours. I am still in college. I graduate next year. Awesome. So I work in 3 places: ATM, warehouse, motel, and TJ Maxx. Hey, man, you know what? You gotta do what you gotta do. Trust me, man. I've been there before too, where I was working 2 jobs. Back in the day when I worked in the warehouse, that was a normal, like 8 hours a day job at the warehouse. And then I worked at that job first shift. And then on second shift, I used to literally leave straight from my first job, go home real quick, change, eat, literally, 5 minutes max. And then, of course, go to my second job, which was at FedEx. I worked in one of their distribution centers. Used to drive the forklift or whatever. So again, man, when I back in my early 20s, you gotta do what you gotta do, man. Like, man, I was broke. Put it that way, I was broke, man. So by all means, in order to make ends meet, and that's because I wasn't a big spender or nothing. It just, broke, right? So, but nevertheless, like anything, man, baby steps, right? Figure out what you're trying to do. Find things to make money. Be smart with your money as well, and then little by little bit, get out of that mess, and things will become way better. That's for sure. Oh, John Wick, what's up, man? What's up? What's up? How's everything going, man? How's your Friday night going? I'm just here, about to get started in a few. We're gonna talk some programming stuff, go over some AWS stuff. But of course, I got my drink of choice. Mezcal is what I'm drinking today. Normally, I'm a tequila guy, but I wanted to taste mezcal because I want to see how different it is from tequila. I know they're made of agaves, so it's interesting to see how how good or how different it is from tequila. But I'm about to open up this bottle in a minute and see how good it tastes, man. But hopefully y'all doing good, man, on a Friday night. Either relaxing or you're, I don't know. Let me know what y'all drinking. If y'all drinking something, what y'all drinking tonight, what y'all going to be doing tonight. Again, I'm going to be streaming, which is, of course, we're going to go over some tech stuff in a minute. And then after this stream, probably around 11:30, I'm going to be on Twitch. And that's where I'll be gaming, probably for about 2 hours or so, Halo Infinite. So that's the game of my choice that I'm playing right now. So pretty much tonight is all streaming. I'm going to be streaming for at least hour and a half, 2 hours here. And then at 11:30, jump on Twitch for another 2.5 hours or so. So, that's my plans for tonight. Let's see, Python developer in the SharePoint to S3 code. If I have a file already existing in S3 and then I want to upload a new file, but the first it should delete. So if the first file happens to be the same name, it would just overwrite it. If it's not the same name, let's say for example, it's a different name, that's where you gotta determine, do you want to keep both or do you want to delete the old one and replace it with the new one? So we could go through that in a minute, and we're gonna walk through that. I need money for last 2 semesters. I have to transfer to university in order for me to graduate. So I'm saying, no, man. Again, you gotta do what you gotta do, man. For real. What are you going for? Like, what degree are you trying to get? Same file name. All right, same file name. It would just replace it. You don't even have to delete it. All you have to do when you run the job, it'll just override it, and you'll be fine. So there's no need to delete the old file. It will just override it and get replaced automatically. Sounds fun. What state do you live in? So I'm from Texas. I live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Pretty much, man. This is my place, man. I've been, born and raised here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And yeah, I did move at one point. A couple of years back, I moved to Seattle, related for work. There was some kind of job opportunity up there. I moved up there. I didn't like it, man. I can tell you right now, I really did not like it. When I moved during the fall time. It was raining every damn day. Like every day it was raining, man. It wasn't raining hard, but it was raining every single day, man. I'm not used to that. I'm from Texas. We don't get that kind of rain like that here in Texas. We just don't. But again, I ended up moving back. A buddy of mine ended up referring. So this is one thing that's very key, man. Network. So like right now you're in college, for example, or it doesn't matter. You don't have to be in college, but wherever you're at, man, I strongly recommend network, man. Build relationships, get to know people, because trust me, there's going to be times that people are going to extend a hand, and they're going to help you out. I have had that happen to me a handful of times. Like just like when I moved to Seattle, I was ready to come back, and a buddy of mine, I talked to him about it, and I was like, yeah, and so what he did was, he was like, hey, where I work at, there's this opportunity, there's this opening. I'll recommend you for it, man. Like, and he put my name and he recommended me, and then of course I interviewed and I got the job. So again, strongly recommend, man. Don't burn bridges if you know you don't have to. Network, build relationships, because trust me, it does help out, man. Like I have seen it firsthand, where me, where some of the relationships that I have built throughout the years have actually been very beneficial to me now. Have opened up opportunities, and again, and I'm very thankful for that, man. But I could tell you right now that would not have happened if I was an ass, or or I was just always, or not, or if I did not build any kind of relationships. I mean, I would have missed out on a lot of opportunities if that's the case. So, computer science, awesome, dude, man. That's good. That's good. So I would have for sure, man. I mean, you're in school. Try to do internships. I know you're working a lot right now, and I get it. You got to do that. But when you can, try to squeeze in some internships, because it is going to help you out once you do get ready to start applying and stuff. Because again, it sucks, man. I feel a lot of the times these places, they want 3 years experience for a junior role, but at least if you have internships done on your resume, that would help you out, and you can be like, hey, I have worked for X, Y, and Z company during the summer. I got experience, and that does help out, man, for sure. I moved from Dallas to Richmond 4 years ago. Oh man, you were here in Dallas. That's cool. Did you move for work, or what was the reason that you moved? Can we go through steps, functions today? What functions do you want to go through today? You want to go through like the Lambda functions, like some of those steps, or do you want to is there anything you want to test out that we went through last week related to the Lambda functions? File coming in S3, yep, should immediately trigger glue and reflect in Redshift via step function. Gotcha. Okay. So again, this is my first time actually drinking mezcal. It has a way different smell. I will tell you that right now. It is not the same as tequila. It's different. Even the taste, I gotta say, the taste is different. It's not the same. Step function is AWS service. So let's go ahead and review this. I have not used this before, step functions. So let's take a look at it and see. See what we're doing here. Assemble function the two business critical applications. Okay, AWS step function is a serverless function that makes it easy to sequence AWS Lambda functions and multiple AWS services into business. Okay, so and I think the reason why I really haven't digged into this, but I probably need to look into it more, is a lot of these, like this step functions, I use another tool. I think we talked about it before, Visual Crohn's, and of course that tool technically does the same thing, right? You execute steps in sequential order and kind of build logic, if else statements, things of that nature. So yeah, we kind of go through this and let's kind of put something together. I will get internship with Dell. I know several people out there, and one of my friends is working there 15 years. Nice. I mean, he used to be my landlord. He works as a server engineer for Dell. Hey, I'm telling you, man, it's all about having relationships. It does help knowing people, building some relationships. They'll be able to recommend you, help get your foot in the door. And that's all it takes, man. As soon as you get your foot in the door, if you're trying to be like a software engineer, that's all it takes. Once you get one opportunity, foot in the door, at least 1 or 2 years experience. After that, becomes way more easier to go to another company and and so on. I moved for school, and I have few relatives here in the VA. Actually, I came to US for school. Okay, cool. So you're in school too. What are you going? What's your degree that you're going for in school? All right, so let's play around with this. Normally what I like to do real quick is we'll get started, but I want to see, there's the documentation. This is what I was looking for. Let's open up the documentation. And then let's go ahead and get started. So let's review hello world example. Get started fast by running a hello world example in 3 clicks. So we see you start pass. A pass statement passes into blah blah blah. Okay. Hello world, yes. Wait 3 seconds. If it's no, it ends. Okay, all of that makes sense. Okay, so let's see. What are we trying to do here? I'm trying to get my biomedical degree. Then I want my master's in consumer science. Man, that's pretty cool. Biomedical. So would that be like career? I'm trying to think from a career standpoint. Would that be kind of like in pharmaceutical, like development, I guess, like new drugs or things of that nature? Or I don't know. I'm trying to think what bucket that falls under. Biomedical. So let's see. So let's call this, what are we trying to do here? We're trying to trigger the files, and ultimately we want to load them into, so we're going to have to create a so let's call this S3 to Redshift. Let's just call it that for now. S3 to Redshift. The IAM bro defines which resource your state machine has permission to. We may have to create a new one. So let's create a new one, but we may have to add additional functionality like S3 bucket access and things of that nature. So I think that's fine for now. Logging, let's say log level, indicate which execution history event to log. Biomedical engineering. Okay. Let's see, tracing. You can enable the Aws X-Ray Tracing on your state machine for end-to-end application debugging, performance profiling, or error handling. Step functions will send tracing to the X-ray for state machine. So we won't enable that for now, but that's something that's interesting to look into later. An execution role will create full permissions. Okay, which is fine. That's fine. It's let me see. Another one, spaces. I think that's what it is. So how do we get a FANG interview? Is it only via reference? What if we don't have friends in FANG? Say resume, blah blah blah. So what I have seen other people do is now I'm talking about, when I say other people, I mean people that are like actually in college. I think where your chances kind of go up is apply when you're in college for an internship with a FANG company, because all of these FANG companies have internships, right? And they actually pay. I believe I heard they pay like $90 an hour or something like that. Like they pay good. And of course, it's only for the summer, I believe. So maybe a month and a half, 2 months. I don't know that you're working necessarily 40 hours a week, but still, even if you're working 30 hours a week, $90 an hour, that's not bad. Um, Around that range. But what I have heard though, it's the challenge is because you got so many people applying to FANG companies for interview positions. That is where it's going to be the challenge. Like, how do you stand out? Like, how do you try to be the one that they look at and they give you a chance, right, to come in. Um, but I will say for sure start there, because if you could get your foot in to if you could get your foot in, that would help you out, especially once you graduate. Then you could put on there, yep, I was an internship at, let's say, Google for the summer of 2022, and that will help out, right? Kind of get your foot in the door for sure. Yes, and that's the challenge. You do have a lot of people. Um, there are a lot of schools. So I don't know, to be honest with you. Besides that, I'm not sure, you know, what stats they're looking at. Like in Google, for example, are they looking at GPAs? Are they looking at schools, right? Maybe specific schools only. Um, that I'm not quite sure what they're doing there. I know I hear people that have got their foot in like through internship at the minimum, which is good, but I'm just not sure on what exactly, like what gave them the advantage to get picked out, right? I don't know if they're just very superior or not, or maybe code base. I don't know if they had a GitHub account with maybe mini projects that they're able to show off as well. That I'm not sure. It will be interesting to hear more about that. I may try to find some. I know there's some people that I have come across. I may try to connect with some of them and try to see if they'll be open to like joining one of my live streams and kind of talking about that some more, right? Their experience and things of that nature. I think it would be kind of cool to know. Uh, Biomedical engineer makes a lot of money. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the level up of new devices and equipment for, dude, the healthcare industry. I can tell you right now, because I have worked with healthcare companies. There's so much markup on that. Like, there's a lot of money, dude. Like a lot of money on things. So, what are some of the big ones? Like Stryker, they make equipment. There's other ones, but I know the reason why I say Stryker is the reason why that comes in mind, anyways, is they actually here, I think in the Dallas area. I want to say I don't know if they have an office or a corporate office here, but they have some kind of office, I believe, here in the Dallas area. Some years back, one of the companies that I worked for, they actually did like the warehousing for Stryker, not the full warehousing, but they were doing like a small portion of warehousing. I think it was like their hospital beds, I believe. They were like how storing and then ultimately ship it out to the hospitals. Um, every job is challenging nowadays. You need a connection or influence, or it will get worse. Google has specific universities. That makes sense, and that's kind of what I was thinking. If like some of the fan companies are kind of focusing on specific universities, I'm pretty sure you could still potentially get in if you have something. I don't know, like something that stands out on your resume, I guess, or your application. But that's the thing, though, man. It does become challenging, right? Let's see. Start an execution using the latest definition of the state machine. So the name, input option, hello world is true. Let's do run. Let's call this run and start execution. You just executed a sample workflow. Well, it's not what I wanted, but we'll change it in a minute, I guess. Healthcare industry never dies. They will boom every year and keep on booming. again, I mean, until something drastically happens, I mean, there's so much money, man. Like I've worked for Smith and Nephew. I was a software and developer there a while back, and you know, we had to deal with a lot of the data as well. Kind of deal was I was software developer, but I was dealing with a lot of the data as well at one point, and so their headquarters, I believe, in the UK, I believe, but they have a presence here in the US, and it's pretty decent. I mean, for healthcare is not as big, but I think they're bringing like $1 billion or so here in the US. But again, when you're talking about healthcare, that's actually not that much because you have all these other Pfizer and all these other bigger healthcare companies that, without a doubt, are bringing billions and tens of hundreds of billions. So, but still, you know, dude, there's so much middleman. Like dealing with McKesson, Cardinal, a lot of these distributors. Like, you know, those are some of the big ones. Everybody has their hand in it, right? Getting a piece of the pie, and everybody getting a nice little chunk. Which is why something that probably should cost $100 ends up costing more like $1,000 after everybody takes their cut of that product, pretty much. All right, so let's see. Let's play around with this a little bit. So let's look at the activities. Well, we don't have no activities. Let's see. Let's go back to. Let's go to get started. So you know what? This was the example. Let me go back. So let's go to leave state machine. So I think, okay, I did create one. This guy. Let's click on it. Let's edit. Try a new workflow, drag and drop. Thanks for the advice, Lou. Your influence programmers. Hey, I mean, again, dude, I did not have it easy. Like getting my foot in the door for a lot of reasons. Like I think I mentioned it before on the live stream, on one live stream. Like I don't have any traditional college education. Right, like I didn't graduate from college. You know, I went at one point to college, and then I ended up, you know, or school better yet, and I dropped out just because I don't know, man. It wasn't nothing against college or nothing like that. It was just the way I learned. I wasn't learning. I guess I really wasn't learning in the traditional way, like reading or whatever. I just more hands on. And even then, I didn't know what I wanted either at that point of my life. It was till a little bit later where I got into it, and I was very, for me, very exciting to learn it. And then I, over time, just started learning it little bit by little bit. And even then, opportunities came very hard because, again, I don't have a traditional education. So it's not, there were companies who did not even give me a chance. Even the company that I worked for at the time that eventually gave me a chance, they didn't give me a chance right away. I kind of had to make the opportunity. And I mentioned it before in one of my videos where we're working on this project, and I talked to the IT team asking them, hey, can you build this application that does X, Y, and Z? It was doing all kinds of stuff. It was going to extract data from PDF files. It was going to load that data into a database. What else we're going to do? I think we're going to take that data and we're going to send it over to the ERP system. So there was a lot of things happening there. It was going to generate, and it was also going to, as orders got processed in the ERP system, then once it got created, we're going to take those orders and we're going to generate PDF documents. So the app was going to do all of that. I talked to IT. They were like, no, it can't be done. It's too challenging. It's too hard to do. So I ended up saying, well, screw that. I'm going to figure out how to do it. And that's when I went and just started learning. Like literally was like hardcore, spending hours every day for at least a couple of weeks. And once I knew enough of programming, again, what helped out at that time, I was already working with database before that. So because I was dealing with data, at least I already had an understanding of like variables and, if statements, things of that nature, right? Conditional statements and stuff. So once I switched to trying to like really learn fundamentals of programming, a lot of the stuff kind of clicked, and I started kind of expanding. And then I ended up building the app. That I built a little app that did exactly what I needed to do, and it solved the problem. I would say the code base was not pretty, but it did its job, right? It did what it was supposed to do, and then that kind of like what forced, you know, like even gave me, forced the company to even more recognize what I bring to the table, and then from there just kind of eventually moved to another company, and then from there, I was already being more looked at like as a software developer. So it became a lot easier, right? Once you kind of have that title, once you kind of have that that experience, I guess, where you kind of put on your resume and stuff. After that, it's like I noticed companies really care less about college background. Like even today, if I wanted to apply somewhere, just because of the years experience that I have, most likely it doesn't matter to them anymore about what college I came from, or that I even don't have a college degree, because they're more so focused, based on the experience and what I do know, and because I have a lot of projects out there as well. Like I do have a private GitLab account that I could share projects that I have worked on. Then of course have my GitHub that's public, and YouTube videos, and other apps that I have built, and there's all kinds of stuff that if I really wanted to, be able to show off. Um, uh, Now let's do the steps function. Yeah, let's go ahead and kind of get started with this. So let's see. So let's see. Let's look at some of the tasks that they have here. I actually want to start from scratch. So let's go to Workflow Studio. Here it goes. This is where I should have went to begin with. Okay, cool. So we're in Workflow Studio. So let's click on Start. We'll start at the beginning. What did this say? Pass state. But what is it passing? What's my input? Pass state can be used to transfer JSON state inputs using filters and so on. Well, see, I'm not doing none of this. So let's go ahead and probably clean all of this out. So let's go ahead and delete all of this. Just start from scratch, pretty much. All right, cool. So in this case, one of the things that we would want to do would be, let's see, what do we have here? Pass, way, success, choice, if, okay, that's if else logic. Start execution. Let's see, what do we have? So we have S3 here. For S3, we have copy object, create bucket. So I think these are different actions we could do. Let's see. So we will be using some of these, just not now. We need to wait till we get new ones. So ideally, I'm gonna say this would be. Well, no, you know what? I don't know if we would use these. Upload part, restore. Again, these are all actions related to the bucket, which I don't think we need. So let me go back. What's S3 controller? No, let me go back. So let's look at. So that's all storage related. So we, of course, we are going to have to execute a function. So let me see if that's here where we could execute a Lambda function. Let's see. This is update function. Let's see. Nope, this doesn't talk about that. Let me go back. So I know, I'm trying to think, there probably is a way to do it here. I'm trying to just make sure that, again, my first time, so I'm kind of just first time exploring. But based on what I'm seeing, so we have run task, but that's for EC2. Start execution. Let's see what this is. Start execution. Start job. There it goes. So this one we will need this start job run, and this is where we would have to, in my mind, we will need to create a glue job. Will be something basic, so we would have to create that, but this would execute the glue job. But before that, though, there needs to be a trigger. And that's what I'm trying to think, though. If I don't know if this I mean, maybe it does work. I'm just trying to think if this workflow actually works with triggers as well. Let's see. What can we find here? Prerequisition. Let's look at the use case. So data processing. As the volume of data grows, coming from blah blah blah. Let's see. Take collected video, convert the sizes, combine sales opportunity records with marketing metrics. So all of this makes sense, right? This is where Glue comes in. So I get that. So let's do this. We're gonna build it, but without a trigger, because I don't know as of right now that there is any triggers associated with this workflow. Normally, I mean, there may be, right? And that's where I'm just not 100% sure right now. But at the minimum, we can still go ahead and build it out. So let's go ahead, and what we would have to do is we have files in the S3 bucket, right, which is number one. We're gonna need to create an AW glue job. But probably what we need to do is an if-else statement. If there's files in that bucket, then we want to run the glue job. So let's do that. Let's find the if, add if-else logic. There it goes. So let's see. Let's look at the input. During execution state, input is evaluated by your choice rules to determine which state filter input within input pass. And then of course the output choice. Nope, let me remove this. Remove. If these conditions are met, default rule, let's see. Let me close out of that. So I'm gonna have to, there'll have to be another input besides this. Let me remove this away for now. So before choice, it would be do this or do that. Let me see what else is on here. So you know what this would be? I think I know. This would be S3. Let's see. Maybe it would be get. Where's the list? List. I don't know why I cannot see everything. Let me see. Nope. Let's see. List the bucket. There we go. List objects. I think this is what I want. Returns some or all up to 1,000 of the objects in a bucket. You can use this request parameter selected to return a subset of the object in a bucket. A 200 OK response can contain valid or invalid XML. Be sure to design application to parse. So this may be it. Let's see what is this one. V2 list parts. So let's try that. What I'm thinking here is we may have to. So my bucket would be. Let's go to my bucket real quick. So which bucket was it? Was it this bucket? Staging. And of course we have a file. I'm going to remove this guy for now. Because I know that guy's in a different format. The other ones are in the same format, but that one is different. Alright, so let's see. Here's my bucket. Let's go to properties. So it wants my bucket name. So let's go ahead and get my bucket name. Properties. And let me copy this. Let's see. Next, go to the end. Nope, there will be another step. So what I need to do here though is, let's see, what do I get back out of this? During execution, the task state called an API and response goes into the task results. Transform results with blah blah blah. So let's look at the documentation real quick. Where did I have the documentation at? I think this is it. So let's look at some of the steps. So execution, or let's do a search. I did S3 list objects. Let's see what I find. Okay, that's not what I wanted. So let's go back. So let's see. Make it a little bit bigger. So I'm trying to find S3 query large data sets. What I'm trying to add is a step to determine if there's files in there, right? One way would probably be to get a list of count of how many files are in there. And then if it's greater than 0 or some kind of logic like that, then go to go to yes to do some kind of step. Else it'll end the process. There's nothing to do. Let me see. So let's look at, these are examples. Let's look at how steps works. States. We have task, activities, activities are a way to associate code running somewhere. Let's see. Nope, that's not what I want. Choice, add branching logic. Type of choices, not variable, variable 0. Nope, that's not what I want. Input, output. State input, input parameter, Lambda function, blah, blah, blah. So let's see. Let's look at pass in AWS. State language. A pass is a string beginning with $sign that you could use to identify components within JSON. So this is resource Lambda. Nope. Let's look at execution. So I know there's the way that I would have done the steps, but again, I do want to do it this way using step functions because I want to see what full capabilities this has, or how use of East, right? How easy it is to truly do it. But I would say this would be a workflow that will probably have to be either scheduled. They're probably the triggers somehow, but would have to look into that to see how that actually triggers, if anything. So let's see, what am I doing here? So list resources, which is fine. List objects. But what I'm trying to see is the output of this. Add original input output. No. Filter output with output pass option. Use this output pass filter to select a portion of the affected output to pass to the next state. So let's see, how does this look? I'm not sure what my output would be here though. That's where I'm trying to think, is there a way to test this out, like a step by step? Let me see. Let me just hit apply for now. Let me see if it allows me to do a quick run. Let me hit save. Save anyways. Let's just start execution. Insert your JSON here. Start execution. It failed, which is fine. I'm just trying to see if it shows the steps. So execute list objects. So what do I get? I want to see what's my response is. Resource. Oh, there it goes. So it says access denied. Probably because that it doesn't have access to an S3 bucket. So that kind of makes sense. So let me go ahead and do that real quick. Let me go now to my IAM rows. And let's take a look at that. This would have been a new row that got created. Rows. Let's see, what would have been, what is it called? There it goes, step functions. Yep, this is it. So in here, we're going to add some permissions. So let's add some, oops. So again, ideally, I wouldn't recommend adding full S3 access. You know what? We could add. It's fine. We'll add full for now, just because we're trying to more so test the functionality for now. But ideally, you wouldn't add full access. You would either narrow it down to just that one bucket, or maybe read access, depending on what you need. So now that that row has, I did save it, right? Yeah, I did save it. Let's just test it out again. Again, I expect it to error out still, which is fine. Oh, nope, it did not error out. Okay, so that's good. Let's see what we get back. Insert. Okay, task start, task schedule, task started, task succeeded. What do we get back? So do we get back each file? Staging. Oh, we got the folder. Staging, cause there we go, and give me the folder inside the file. All right, cool. So because they found items in here, let's see, max key 1000, output. So under output context, we could do technically Alright, so let me see. I'm trying to think what we could do here in this case. Let me go back to edit state machine, workflow studio. So we know what this returns back. The output, let's say, use the result sector filter to construct a new JSON object using parts of the task. By default, a state sends a new task result to the output. Then, of course, that filter output will send output pass. Use the output pass filter to select portions of the affected output pass. Let me see. So one option is, like we saw in the results, we get a JSON back and it tells us the output a whole list of files, right, or folders / files that are in there. So in theory, you could do a count and say, hey, is there any files in there? And if there is, that you get a count greater than 0, then that means it's true. And then that probably this file option filter would probably help out for that. See right here where it says whatever key, this is where we won't have to specify that key, and it would just give us back that data set. I mean, so that kind of works, but you still got to get a count. I'm trying to think if there's a better option. Maybe there's a way to just determine there's new files, right? I mean, that's really what we want. We just want to know if there's files in there, but not even a new file, just files in the bucket. It's not empty. Let's see, S3, copy. I was hoping there's something like count or something, but I don't see that. These are all just delete object, get public access, nope, get bucket location. What else? What are we dealing with here? Get object, get object attributes, list parts, put objects, upload parts. Nope, I don't see nothing that stands out for that. Let's see what's in our flows. This is all pretty straightforward. All right. Let's see. These are, nope, that's not it. Storage, migrations, development tools, nope. Event bridge. What do we have here? List events. List connection endpoints, list rules, start, nope, that's not it. Update endpoint, nope. I mean, this is more related to the actual service to update or make or get resources, but I don't see. Let's see, put, create, delete, list. Enable rules. Nope, I don't see that. Okay, so let's do this. I'm gonna show you another way. I'm gonna dig into this some more because I'm very curious on some of the, like, there's some things I could see right off the top that for sure would work well with this. There's some things I'm not sure yet. I'll have to play around with it to see how, if it's doable, and if it is doable, how easy is it, right? Is it more complicated than using something else, or is it pretty straightforward? But I do see how certain things it would work very well. So let's do this real quick. What we're gonna do real first is let's kind of cancel and let's kind of get out of this. Leave. Since we do have a bucket right now, right, with files that we want to, let's say, test out, because this is what we tested out on moving from SharePoint over to this bucket. We're going to create a glue job. So let's go ahead and go to glue real quick. So let's kind of do that first, anyways. Create the glue job. What I'm gonna do, so once we're in glue, there's a few things, right? One of the things that we're gonna do, we're gonna create a crawler. So that'll probably be the first step we do. We're gonna create a crawler because we want to read the file, those files that we have right in the S3 bucket, which is the CSV file, and we're gonna create that structure. So let's go ahead and add a crawler. We're gonna call this for now SharePoint testing. I don't know, what was the customer staging. Let's call it that, customer staging. That's our crawler name. You know what? Damn, I don't think I have a database set up. Let me go back. I'm gonna need to set up a I do have databases set up. All right, cool. So I'll put this under the SharePoint database. That's fine. So all right, cool. So we're gonna do crawl all folders, data store. Yep, that's fine. S3 bucket. So under the path, this is where we're going to go ahead and select where we want to go to. So this would be that SharePoint ETL test and staging, because that's where all of our files are at. Add another source. Nope. Choose an existing IAM row, which I believe. Ooh, let me check real quick. Which row? Damn, what was the name of the rows? So we have AWS Glue Service row. Let's check that one. AWS Glue Service row. I think of this guy right here. Yep, it has S3 bucket access glue. All right, cool. That's perfect. So that has the access that we need. Run on demand. That's fine. The database that this is going to go to is going to be the SharePoint. Hit next, and then now we're going to hit finish. Then let's go ahead and run this. I'm going to run this crawler. So at this crawler run, they're gonna just again build the schema for us of those files that we have in there. Now, once this finishes, you know what? While this is running, it's gonna take a few minutes to execute. What I'm going to do. Let's look at Redshift. I don't think I have a Redshift instance running right now. Amazon Redshift service. This experience makes it easier for customers to run on scale. Blah blah blah. Provisions. Simply load queries. Let's try this one. It should be the same as the normal one, but of course it's. Let me just look at something. Just make sure that. Let's see. Default custom, that's fine. To start, you're using Amazon serverless. Set up your serverless data warehouse and create a database. You will receive $300 credit toward the Redshift serverless usage in this account. So like Redshift, it's a little pricey. Like just to get started, entry level, it's probably like a good $140, $150 a month. And then from there it goes up, right, to hundreds or even thousands of dollars, depends on the resource. But it's not like a normal database. Like I could spin up a Postgres database for like $10 a month, where for Redshift it's not. It's like $150 a month at least. Then it goes up. I'm just trying to think because this is serverless. Just trying to make sure. Once I kill it, which it should be fine. That's fine. Let's go through this and it should be alright. Let me go back. Create work group. Nope, that's not what I want. Let's go back. Serverless dashboard. What does spin a Redshift mean? So, talking about like whenever I say spin up a Redshift, I meant pretty much create an instance. Right now, there is no Redshift that exists. I would have to, create an instance, and then of course that as soon as I create it, that's where I start getting charged for that, whether I use it or not. But I start getting charged. Let me go back. So let me go back to AWS Redshift. Pricing. Let me look at the pricing real quick. I just want to make sure before, at least I know what. All right. So 25 cents per hour. I don't use Ohio. I use the West. Same thing. So we'll start out with the basic. It'll be 25 cents an hour, and it should be fine. And then I'll kill it once I'm done. The server is serverless. Yeah, that's fine. Let's do that. So let me go back. Let's create a cluster. So this would be not for the serverless, but it's for the regular one. I'm just gonna call it Redshift Cluster 1. That's fine. Let's do a free tier. We don't need to do production, which is fine. When they're free, there should be lesser resources, as you could tell. 2 vCPUs, 25 cents an hour, so that's fine. So let me get this created real quick. This would be hold on, let me go ahead and, man, why did this go way over here? Alright, cool. So I'm gonna create my username, and then let me create a password. I'm not gonna create nothing hard, just something basic, because again I'm gonna kill it once we finish and then we can spin up another one later if needed. So it'll be hashtag G2. All right, that's fine. So my username is going to just be It's going to be admin. My password. Let me go ahead and put in my password. All right, cool. So now let's create cluster. All right, so this is spinning. Now let's go back to our glue, right? We're doing glue. Boom, this is ready. Let's go to tables, and we should see that staging table. And see how we have all the information. All of this information is in these CSV files, right? So all of that's in there. That's kind of how we got all the schema now. So cool. Now that we have that, see, well, here's one thing to keep in mind. See, under zip, it made it big integer. Here's the thing: it's not really a big integer, and the reason why is zip code has leading zeros. So, and even though the crawler did read it properly, identified it was all numbers there, and because it was all numbers, it made it an integer. But I know it's not an integer. This should be a string. So you do gotta watch out for that. I mean, crawlers, it's doing its job, but it doesn't know that a zip, column or zip value has leading zeros, and it can't be an integer because then it will strip out the leading zero. So again, I'm fixed it manually by updating it. All right, so now let's go back to our Redshift. So our Redshift is now that's being created. My user that I'm using does have access to Redshift, so that shouldn't be a problem. The only thing that I may have to do, and I'll take a look at it, I may have to open up the Redshift port just so I could connect to it. I guess I don't have to, as long as the service has access to it, it should be fine. But let's let this run, and then once this finishes, pretty much what we're gonna do next is create a glue job that would take the S3 bucket data, then we're gonna load it to a Redshift, database. And then once we do that, once we get the job to do that, I'm gonna show you a way where we could trigger when new files get loaded into an S3 bucket. It would trigger what it's gonna do. It's gonna trigger a Lambda function, and that Lambda function is gonna call this glue job to run. So the whole flow would be, so the way it would actually work would be the Lambda function that we created previously would run and drop new files, right? Updated file. And then because there's a new file in there, like an updated file, that is going to trigger another Lambda, a second Lambda function, which that second Lambda function is going to execute this job. So now when this job runs, it's going to take that data, extract it, and then load it to Redshift. So that's kind of like the flow of it, right? So this is still spinning. Let's give it a minute. While this is still spinning, I'm going to grab something real quick, and I'll be back. Damn, it's still going. Okay. So let's give it another minute or so. Boom, there it goes. It's done. All right, cool. So now that this is done, let's view data. So we'll be able to see the database in here. So this is like the way to connect to it via the browser, right? So I normally don't connect to it via the browser that often. What I normally do is I connect. I use a database management tool like dbeaver, Table Plus, for example. I mean, there's different tools you can use. dbeaver's free, and it's actually very good. So strongly recommend it. All right, so you could tell we have a dev database. Then of course there's some sample data. So we're going to stick with dev for now. We don't need to create a new one. This dev database. Then under public schema, we're going to end up creating a table. Now we're not going to create it. We're going to let the glue job create it for us. So we'll see that in a minute. But at least now this is created. Let's go back to Redshift. All right, cool. So we have one node running. Here's our cluster that we have running right now. Let's go ahead and click on it. What I'm going to have to get from here is going to be my endpoints. So see how we have our endpoints, all this information. I'm going to go ahead and copy this endpoint. Let me go ahead and put it. All right, cool. So this is going to be our connection, right? Which normally in your database tool, it would be like your IP address or your URL. So that's that piece. I have my credentials, the database, the schema, the database, my bad, is dev. So that's the name of our database name. And then of course the schema is public. Because again, the Redshift, all it is a layer on top of a Postgres database, but that's been more souped up, I guess you could say, to be more designed for big data, right? Like Amazon Aurora database, that's actually built on top of Postgres as well, but that's more for transactional, not database warehousing, but more for transactional systems like ERP system where you're like always creating new records and things of that nature. Either way, let's kind of go on. So all right, so we have that. Let's look at my properties, and I want to see which. There we go. My security group. I got the port, got the credentials, all of that's fine. Let's look at the security. Nope, never mind. This is not what I wanted to look at. Let's go back. Where is it at? Oh, there it goes. Security group. So let's take a look at that real quick. Again, I don't think I have anything sensitive in here. Well, maybe. Let me just take a look at it right quick. Yeah, I do, because I actually do have my IP address in here. Okay, either way, it should be good though. It should be good. So that being said, let me close out of this. Oops. All right, cool. Let me go back. So I think we should be good with that. Everything should be good. So now let's go back to Glue. We have our schema is all fine. So the next thing that we're going to do. So here's the thing. See how the name is staging? The reason why I created that name, because that was the name of the folder, staging. Probably should have gave it a better name. Normally in these cases, like I wouldn't call it staging. Where's my, there it goes. Like in these cases, what I would have probably done is create staging folder, but inside there create another folder, and maybe that other folder is called customers, right? And then I could have another folder, you know, I could have like customers and sales and calls or whatever. And then of course all of your files based on that type of data will get dropped into the folder. That's what I should have done. But again, that's fine. I mean, we could still walk through the process and go through it. So now let's go ahead and create a job. I'm going to do a legacy job. I'm not too big of a fan of the new one, but I get it. I feel still it's a little buggy that they need to fix, but we'll see. I'm going to do legacy for now. So let's give it a name. This would be something like SharePoint customer, let's say S3 to Redshift, right? So just call it that, right? Something like that. Same thing, I need to go to my IAM row. I'm going to call AWS Glue Service. Spark is fine. Python 3. So now I'm going to go to my security configuration. And if we go down, let's see. There's a few things to keep in mind, right? So see where it says the worker type? The type of worker defined. So right now it's based on memory intense jobs. So what I'm doing is not memory intense. I would stick with standard unless you have a use case for something that's memory intense or even ML transformation. If not, stick with standard because the cost is going to be much higher. Again, you're using more resources, more cost. The number of workers, you could tell, is go up to 299. If you working with those kind of workloads, it's going to be expensive. I'll tell you that right now. You're going to be spending probably hundreds of dollars for one job to run because you're spinning up so many VMs, you're using so many CPUs. So ideally here, again, what I would recommend is start out with the lowest amount of workers you could have, which I believe is 2, and then add on to it as you need, right? You know, if you see like, okay, by having 2 workers, it takes 10 minutes, but you wanted to run faster. Okay, well, maybe add 4 to 6 workers, right? Test it out. Maybe by then it's running in a matter of 2 minutes. And then that's doable, right? So for the purpose of saving costs, I would recommend make these changes. If not, you are going to be paying more every time you run the job. So now let's click next. So here's our table, right? Again, this is part of, you could tell where it's coming from, that bucket and that subfolder. So I'm going to click on it. See if it says CSV. So we're going to click on this one. Change schema, which is fine. Change schema. So see this piece where it says use table and data catalog or create table in your data target. I'm going to click on create table in data target because we haven't created a table yet in Redshift. And you know what, man, I forgot. I need to go back now. So under connections, I'm going to have to add a connection. The connection that I'm going to have to add is going to be for my Redshift. So this would be, let's call it Redshift. Let's see, what do we call it? Cluster 1. Let's just call it the same, Redshift Cluster 1. And this would be a Redshift instance. Requires, nope, it doesn't. Hit next. Let's click on the cluster. There we go, the Redshift 1. Dev, yep, this is the right database that we want to use. If this wasn't the right database, then of course change it. But because it is, it's fine. Then I'm going to put in my password next. So let me go ahead and put in my password. Alright, cool. So now I'm going to hit next. Yep, everything looks good. Hit finish. And let's test the connection to make sure that we're able to connect. So same thing, I'm going to use AWS Glue Service because that should have access to my Redshift. Hopefully it connects. We'll see. I know it's still spinning. Shouldn't take that long, so hopefully it doesn't error out, but it is taking a while. Damn, it's still going. You know what? I'm trying to think. Didn't we have an issue a while back for some reason with this? I think we did. Man, I'm hoping not, but yeah, I do have Redshift, full access to Redshift. That should not be a problem, and it should be for all instances, not just some. Yeah, that shouldn't be a problem. If we go back to Redshift, I'm just curious now. Yep, it's under the US West 2 region, which is, let me make sure that's where this is located as well, which it should be. Yep, West 2, so that's fine. Oh, there it goes. It did work. Cool, it worked. So that connected properly, so that's good. So at least I got my connection now in order. So now let's go back to our, damn, where's our job at? Oh, damn it, where is it? Dude, did it close out? What the hell? Where is it at? Now I can't find the tab. So let me close whatever tabs I don't need. Let me go back to... It's not this. It's not this. It's not this. Damn it, I'm gonna have to recreate it again. Dude, I swear I didn't think I closed out of it, but I guess I did. Let me go back now. Damn it. Alright, so let's create it again. SharePoint customers S3 to Redshift. This would be my row. Again, going back to security configuration, make sure to select the proper worker type and then your workers. In my case, I'm going to put it the lowest possible to save cost. Alright, next I'm gonna hit next. So again, this is the when we ran the crawler, created that table, right? So we're gonna click on that, and then change schema is fine. Then under here, we're gonna click create table. Boom, there it goes. There's our connection. It found, yep, that's fine. And then database. The name of the database. So the name of the database is called dev. So we're gonna click on that. Boom. So see how right now doing the mapping, this is where you have the opportunity to modify. You could change the name from first name to maybe something else, right? Or so on. So just kind of keep that in mind. Let's say like zip code. I could change it to zip code because it didn't have it over here. You know, this is where you could do that. So it's creating the mapping from the source to the target. Once we do that, we're going to hit save job and edit script. So by default, if we scroll down, it's kind of hard to see. Let's see if I can make it bigger. Yeah, even then it's kind of hard to see. So you know what? Let me do this. Let me make it smaller. But let me copy this. And let me put this in Sublime Text. Because I can make it bigger over here as well. Where's Python at? So one of the things that I wanted to show here was the very last piece where it says write dynamic frame. This is where it's writing to the Redshift environment. If we scroll to the right, see where we have our option, connection options, and then we have our table. It's called staging because that's what it's creating it as, staging. And then of course is database. You could always change it here to whatever that you want it to be. So for example, in my case, I don't want it to be called staging. I want this to be called customer. So make the change. If you want it to load to a specific schema, which in my case I do, which is called dev. Make sure to put dev in front, dev.customer. That's what we're going to put here. By default, if you don't put this, Redshift or like Postgres, for example, a lot of them they have, or even like a lot of the databases have what's default schemas. Postgres is public, Redshift is public as well. SQL Server is DBO. I'm not sure what MySQL is, but either way, a lot of databases have default schemas. So if you don't specify a schema, it's going to get loaded to the default schema. You want to make sure to specify what schema. In my case, it's going to be dev.customer. So make sure to make those changes. Let me go ahead and copy this. And then I'm going to go ahead and paste this. Again, everything that we did with the whole process and the UI and configuration, all at the end of the day, what that ended up doing was pretty much just generate this Python script for us. That's kind of what it did, right, at the end of the day. So, you know, just kind of keep that in mind. You could always generate this from scratch if needed as well. So that's kind of up to you. So let me go ahead and save. So now that I saved this, let's do a run because I want to test it out, right? Make sure that it works. So let's go ahead and run it. Yep, let's run this bad boy. So now I'm going to close out of this. And if I click on the job, so this is a legacy way to see. If you click on it, you'll see down here where it says running, right? And then it'll tell you how long it takes and all that stuff. If we go to Aws Glue Studio, this is like the more newer interface. And you could go to monitoring. So under monitoring, we should see one job running. Yep, there goes the one job running right now. So if we scroll down, it will show us which job is running, which is this job right here. And it, you know, you can tell it's still running. It's going to tell you the capacity. So keep in mind this DPU hours. This is really the cost. I believe the cost, the price today for one DPU hour, it is 44 cents, right? Though because I'm using very little capacity, my DPU hour per job should be something like 0.03 to like 0.05, very little. So it's not a lot. I have done testing before using the default setting, which is a G.1, which is a memory resource intense, you know, service with 10 workers, and even running something very basic that, you know, that normally when I'm using two capacities, it would only utilize 0.05 DPU hours. When I use 10 workers, I was using like 1.5 to like 2 to even 3 DPU hours just for running the same job. So it makes a big difference, right? You know, which may not seem a lot, like, oh, well, that's only 80 cents or $1. But if you have a job running very often, like some of them, I have one for one of my clients. We have jobs where we're pulling data over from QuickBooks Enterprise, and we're bringing that over to a SQL Server database, and we have jobs that are running for each data set that we're pulling in, which is probably like 3 dozen. And so each time a job runs, initially when we first configured a job, we had them with 10 workers, so it was costing me like $1 and some change, maybe $1.20 for each job. But I had like, I don't know, let's say 20 jobs. So that means it was costing me about probably $30 every time it ran. And that job ran like 4 times a day. So now you're talking about $30 times, I don't know, $120 a day. Dude, it gets expensive. I mean, as soon as we figured that out, what was happening, made the changes right away, the cost dropped down drastically, man. Now the cost is like $8 a month compared to $30 a day. Like that's a big difference. So let me hit refresh. Boom. So see how it says 0.06 DPU hours? So again, that's pretty much 0.06, like I guess 6% out of 44 cents. So it's not expensive at all. It's literally pennies, if anything, to run one job because I'm using minimal resources. So now that we ran it, let's take a look to make sure that it worked. So I'm going to refresh. Expand dev. Public. Oh, damn it. You know what? Shit. I put dev. We don't have a dev schema. We have a public schema. That's my mistake. Yep, that's not right. So that's my mistake. What I should have done here, though, let me go ahead and let's create a new schema. Let's call this stage, or let's call it staging, right? Create schema. Boom, staging. Let me go back to my job. Let me go to scripts. We're gonna edit scripts. Same thing, I'm gonna go back. Instead of putting dev, I forgot dev is a damn database, not the schema. But because I created a new schema called staging, I'm gonna change it to staging. Let me hit save. And now let's run the job again. So I would say I do like in the Glue Studio on how you could see everything like as your jobs that are running and stuff. But if you wanted to use the legacy, just click on the job and you can see it running and under the history, right? The history will tell you for that specific job if it ran, did it fail, and so on. In this case, it did fail, as you could tell, right? And see how it tells you like the error message. It says invalid schema dev does not exist. I kind of knew that already by looking at it, but nevertheless, it does tell you if you click on the error logs, or sometimes here in the error section, it'll kind of tell you what the error is, and you can kind of make the changes and fix it. So again, how long did it take me for? 1 minute and 17 seconds. So we're about halfway there. It's almost done. Okay, so while that's running, I want to check something real quick over here. Alright, so let's see if this is done. There we go, it is done now. So now let's go back to, let's come back over here and see if we see any new tables under staging. Boom, one new table. If I click on it, customers, and then there's our data. My bad, that's a schema, not the data. So let's go ahead and query. Right, so let's go ahead and the text kind of small. Can I make this bigger or no? Either way, that's fine. So let's do select start from staging customer, and let's run. So we should see data, but you could tell, see how it auto created our table for us, so we didn't have to create it in our staging table. Do you keep in mind though, when it does auto create for you, like the way it did, you are going to get these data types. Like in this case, it's like very, very big, right? 65,000 characters, pretty much the links of each value, because it's a string value. Which is why a lot of the times in my process, if I am going to do it this way, I will have it, I would have a staging schema where everything will go into, because once you do that, you can do some data profiling as well if needed and things of that nature. Unless you do it before and you already know like the links of everything. But how can we upload the Redshift data to S3 and CSV? So you're talking about the other way around now? Like you want to take data out of Redshift and put it into an S3 bucket? Is that what you're referring to when you say upload the Redshift data to S3? So pretty much you want to export it out of Redshift and then upload it to S3. Because if that's what you want to do, then that's we would have to create a job as well but do the reverse this time. This time would be the source would be Redshift, and we would specify the table. So we have to run a crawler on the table that we want, and then from there that will get exported out to an S3 bucket, and we could format it in whatever format we want. I believe the three main formats would be CSV, JSON, and Parquet are the three main data formats. Unload, not upload. Yes, Redshift to S3. Yeah. So that would be the same way. That would be the same way. We could walk through that, but before we do that, let me show you the trigger. Yeah, in general. Yeah, for sure. It will be almost identical on what we did here. Like we would have to create a crawler, but the crawler this time, instead of pointing to an S3 bucket, it's going to point to the Redshift table. So the crawler will point at the table, and then once we generate the crawler, run it, the crawler will generate a table, right? In our database table section, it would generate the name of that table here. And then we will create a job. And the job, our source, we will click on this table, this table will be our source. And then of course our target will be an S3 bucket. That's pretty much what would happen there. And then once we do that, we will specify the data type, right? I think by default it will be JSON, but you could change it to CSV or Parquet, whatever format you want it to be in. And that's how it would go the reverse way. But like now that we have this and we know everything works, right? We know it's working. What I'm gonna do is let me just go ahead and truncate table. Boom. All right, cool. So now that has been truncated. The reason why I truncated it because I want to. Yep, I wanna rerun it now, but I want to run it with the trigger. So now this kind of goes back to, let's go to Lambda, right? So let's go to Lambda. We already have one function, right, that we created here, which is this one. Well, now we're going to create another function, and this function that we're going to create, we're going to call it, I just call it for right now, run glue job. I'm going to call it as customer. Let me call it something better. Run customer glue job. Right, that's pretty much what it's going to be. And we're going to use Python. That's fine. Yep, all of that's fine. So now that it's created our function, what we're going to end up doing is we're going to pretty much, we should be able to use, we shouldn't need any third-party packages for this. So this one will be a lot easier. So what we will do here is we will take this guy that we have here, and we're going to bring in boat 03. So this should be part of it already, I believe. At least that's what I recall reading the documentation. So that's not, I mean, it is a third-party application package, but I believe it's integrated with Lambda by default, to my understanding. So what I'm gonna do here is we're gonna call this glue boat 03 client, and the client that we're gonna be using will be glue. Let me make it bigger. It looks kind of small. I noticed. I just realized right now. All right. Still there we go. At least that's a little bit bigger. Anyways. All right. Cool. So we have our glue instance that we're gonna have. Let's call this glue job name, and this would be, what is our glue job name? Let me go back to that. So if I go to glue jobs, legacy jobs, so this is our name right here, right? So this name here we're gonna have to copy. Oh, damn it. So I'm gonna copy, and then this would be our, oops, that would be our glue name. All right, so now that I have our glue name, what we could do here would be, let's see. So we just literally just want to execute it. So this would be glue dot start job run, and then we're gonna do say job name equals glue job name. That's it. Like literally, we're just gonna run it, and that's it. Trying to think what else. So this should be it. Let me go ahead and save this. Let's deploy changes. Okay, now that we have deployed the changes, to make sure that this works, let me go back and I'm gonna make sure this is empty. Yep, this is empty. So I'm gonna go ahead and let's test this, right? Let's go ahead and run it. Let's call it test, that's fine. Access denied when calling, start job operation. You know what? I think it has to do with this, with the row. Where's my row at? I may need to change that. So let's see where that information at. Let's see, that may be under configuration, permissions. Here's the row. Let's edit this guy. So probably what we need to do here is, let me go to this row. And for now, what we could do, we could add permissions to run glue jobs. Right, so this would be AWS Glue Services. I'm going to add this one because this one has S3 bucket as well. Nope, that's not it. Is that it? No, my bad. That's not it. It would be... should be this guy, Glue Services. So let me hit apply, attach. So now let me go back. Let me just go back to test, and let's test this out. All right, so this time it ran good. Here's the thing though, see how it ran, but even though it ran the job successfully, it pretty much is done, right? So if we go to, if I hit refresh, we should see it running. Boom, it's running. So ultimately, again, that Lambda function is now running the glue job, which is good because that's what we wanted. So now that that's working as we intended, nope, that's it. Everything's good. Let me come out of it. This name here. So while that runs, and I'll delete it in a minute, let me go back to my bucket. So if I go to my bucket, and we're gonna go to properties, I'm gonna go all the way down to see where we have event notifications. We're gonna create a new event notification here. Okay, so I'm gonna call this trigger. Let's see, trigger execute Lambda. Let's say we do on new or change or updates. I don't know, something like that. That's too big of a name. They just call it trigger execute Lambda. So see where we have our prefix? This is to include the folder. In our case, our folder is called staging. That's the folder we want to look into, right? The staging folder. You could specify more specific file type, but we don't need to do that because everything in there is CSV, so that's fine. So see right here under the creation sections, we're gonna do I believe there may be puts, even copy. I guess it doesn't matter. We could do all. Anything that gets created, it would execute it. Or let's see. Yep, anything that gets created, it would execute it, which would be, that should be. I think that should do it. Yeah, I think so. So see, we go all the way to the bottom where we have Lambda function. So that's what we want to execute, a Lambda function. And then under the list, I'm going to select that new Lambda function that I just created, which is called run customer glue job. All right, so that's what I'm doing. I'm going to now save my changes. Cool, so now that I have this saved, let me go back to objects. This should be done already. So let me go ahead and run this. And there's data. So I'm gonna truncate table staging. So let's go ahead and truncate this. So now it's empty again, right? There's no data. So this is the interesting piece. So this is where we're gonna find out and make sure that if everything's working as planned. If I go back to my Lambda functions, and remember, this is the first one that we created, which is just called SharePoint to S3. So really, I'm gonna want to run this guy. I'm gonna do a test because I want to execute it. So let's go ahead and run this. Did it run? Nope. Let me test. Remember, this one's on schedule to run, but I'm just executing it manually because I want to test it out. So if I go back to my bucket, this should be getting new files, right? This got loaded when July 21st, so this would have been yesterday. If I refresh, boom, see we got 2 new files for today. I forgot about this file. I don't need this file. Damn it, I need to delete it because this is gonna error out. The reason why it's an Excel file, not a CSV file. Okay, either way, so we have, you see how we have new files in here, right? Because we have new files that got dropped in here. Now if I go back to Lambda, let me click on monitor. If I were to look, my bad, not this one. I want to look at this one, run customer glue job, monitor. Boom, this should be running. And I think it just ran, maybe. I'm not sure. Well, I guess to find out if it was running, let's go to this. There we go. See how it's running? Yep, and it's still, there we go, it finished. So now if I go and I requery this, boom, we have data now. So what we just did right now, we end up creating the flow from beginning to end. Whenever the first job runs, the Lambda job runs, right, which is this SharePoint S3 bucket, since it's downloading files and it's loading the files into an S3 bucket, what happens is that S3 bucket has a trigger now. That trigger is, hey, there's new files being created. So let me go ahead and call this Lambda function, which is this guy. And as this Lambda function gets called, well, this Lambda function really what it's doing is like, all it's doing is calling the AWS Glue service, which is, you know, the one that we created, right? Which is this guy. So now it's running this job, which ultimately this job extracts the data from the files and loads it to Redshift environment. And it's doing that automatically, right? It's trigger based, right? One job is scheduled, but the rest is all trigger, and it just kind of funnels through, and it's good to go. So So what we did, I mean, I think does satisfy ultimately what you're trying to do. Which I know initially we're looking at the step functions. I'm willing to assume that we probably could do it with step functions as well. I'm just not exactly sure if we could add like the same triggers the way we did and things of that nature. But again, I'm going to explore more. This is really my first time really digging into step functions. So it seems kind of interesting. I'm going to step in, do some more playing around, testing, things of that nature. And, you know, kind of figure out more like the pros and cons, right? Again, a lot of the services that AWS has, they all have their pros and cons. They're good for certain, again, like AWS Glue. AWS Glue has its purpose, which is for ETL jobs and is good for that kind of stuff. But anything besides that, it's not, may not be the best. You know, that's where you got to use another service to depend on what you're trying to do. So we did this using step functions, right? No, we did not. So everything that we did was not in step functions at all. We did it more so using some of the. What we did was we ended up using AWS Glue service, which again, step functions would have had to call AWS Glue anyways. So that's nothing different. I think the difference is step functions. My guess would have either would have to have some kind of job to kick off the flow, the workflow, and I'm just not sure though if that would have been through the form of a trigger or a schedule, right? That's the only thing I need to play around with. But the way we did it though, we added a trigger to an S3 bucket, and the trigger is anytime there are files that are created or updated into that folder, it's going to now trigger the Lambda function that we created to run, which ultimately runs the AWS Glue job. Okay. Yes, the Glue trigger via Lambda was awesome for long-term solution when there are many jobs to monitor. So we need to think of step functions for sure, and that's where I think I'll play around with it and try to get more familiar with, again, the pros and cons, the good and the bad of what step functions offers. But without a doubt, based on what I'm seeing, I think that's where it becomes very ideal when you're dealing with many different processes, and that's where it would work smoothly, right? But what we did right now, at least from trying to automate the movement of SharePoint files over to an AWS S3 bucket, but also automate the piece of whenever there are new files, they're now go ahead and start the ETL process and load it to Redshift. Pretty much what we did would automate all of that those steps from beginning to end. But again, I think this is a good example of trying to take what we did already and try to mimic that with step functions and be able to, you know, again, hopefully, you know, just kind of get more familiar with it and kind of get familiar with the good and the bad, right, of what's actually capable and what's not capable with that process. If we have time, can you show me how to upload Redshift to S3? So yeah, let's try to do it real quick. I think we could hopefully knock it out real quick. So if I go, what we're going to need to do first is I'm going to use the same table that we have today, right? It's the same table that we already have there, which is fine. Or another table. I think we have a dummy table in here as well, I just noticed, which is a sample database. Or even staging. We have some tables, some sample data, I believe. So either way, we'll pick one and let's take a look. Let's see what we're dealing with here. So public, and let's look at cells. Let's see, we have a lot of data in here. We may have a lot of data. Yep, we have data here. Boom, that's perfect. So we're going to use this table because there's some good data in here. All right, so what we're going to do is we are going to need to create a crawler. So we're going to go to crawler, add crawler. let's call this SP cell, or let's call this Redshift cells. That's fine. Redshift cells is fine. Data store, crawl, our folders. You know what? There's not an existing one yet. So let's hit next. This would be JDBC. And here we will click our connection, right? Redshift cluster. So see, it's kind of hard to tell, but see how there's it says database, schema, and then table. So we're gonna have to specify the database being dev. The schema is gonna be public. Then the table is gonna be cells, right? So we go back. It's dev, public, and then cells. But doesn't work as expected. I guess what doesn't work as expected? Click next, no other data source. Pick my row, hit next, run on demand. This is where I'm going to put under the SharePoint database. Hit next, finish. So now I'm going to go ahead and run this crawler. Let's run it. So I guess what do you mean whenever you say but doesn't work as expected? I'm not exactly sure what you mean by that. Do you see this upload script? You talking about, so you, let's see, if we have time, can you show how to unload Redshift to S3? I think they're the simple Redshift unload script. So are you talking about unloading all of the tables of Redshift, or a specific tables? Maybe that's where the disconnect at. So if you're trying to unload, I don't know, maybe, I don't know, a few tables, then what I'm doing now would work. We would have to just create crawlers for each one of the tables, run it. As we run it, it would generate tables. Then from there, we would create jobs that we could ultimately, have run. Have each job run that will pull each table to dump the data to an S3 bucket. Ideally, if you do it that way, one of the benefits that you get from it would be, assuming that you're dealing with large data sets, right? Let's say you have one table that's a few million rows. You have another table that could be another few million rows. You have another table that could be tens of millions of rows. If you were to create each one its own job, when everything runs, you could have all of them running at the same time and dumping all of the data in the same time into an S3 bucket. If you were to try to put all of that into one job, it will take longer, because now most likely you would either have to add some logic to do some concurrency processing at once, or it's gonna like pretty much extract each table one by one sequential, which would take a long time to run. Let's say I want to load only top 100 rows of one table from Redshift to S3. I uploaded the script 2 times in chat, but I think you cannot see it. YouTube chat is poor. Does not allow me to copy and paste all the content. So I think, if I'm understanding right, you're not talking about the whole table. Then you're talking about more so a partial table, right? That's kind of what it seems like a partial data set. If that's the case, I think there is a way. We would have to probably do it within the script, modify the script. So let me see something real quick. So I guess let's go through this real quick. So see how we got this is done. Well, never mind, it's not done. I thought it was done. Yep, it's not done yet. Damn, it's taking longer than normal, but either way. So the way we're doing it now, which again we're pulling one table from Redshift, and then we're gonna dump that data to an S3 bucket. That would bring all of the data, right? That's what it will happen. I think what you're saying is, can you bring partial data? Doing via Glue Redshift to S3, I can't specify that I only want top 100. So yeah, that's what I'm saying. It sounds like you want you want like top records of it. I think there may be a way to do it. I'm just trying to think. I have never had a need to do it that way. For sure, there's a workarounds for a fact. Like one workaround would be create a view, right? In Redshift that, and of course the view would say top 100, and you could have it ordered by whatever sequence if you needed to order by it some kind of way. That would be one way for sure, because then you could just, like the way I created this crawler on a table, you would just create a crawler on the view. It will be the same concept, right? Like, I mean, the crawler doesn't know any difference of a table and a view. It's all the same. So that is, again, that's more of a workaround that will work for sure. And it should be an S3 and CSV format. So for example, let's go through it real quick. We go through it real quick. So there's no views here. Or is there any views over here in the sample data? Oh, it doesn't let me click on it. That's odd. I'm not sure why. So let's see if this creates some sample data, and maybe there's some views in here. All right, cool. So now we have some, let's see, let's click on publics. No views. Let's click on this. Yep, no views either. Damn it. All right, cool. That's fine. Let's go to public. Let me delete this. Or let me go back to this is where I was at. If you Google unload Redshift to S3 and CSV, you will get a script. It's a very simple script, but it does not work as expected. No, there's no need. I mean, so there's a way to do that, right? I'm just trying to more so right now, you know, again, the whole create or replace view. This would be public. Let's call it v cells as select top. Oh, my bad. It's not top. So in this case would be public cells limit. Let's say 100, right? And I'm going to order this by, I don't know, let's order it by cell ID. Does not exist. Did I spell it wrong? Or no, I didn't spell it wrong. Oh, hold on. Maybe. Oh, no wonder I'm under the wrong database. That makes sense. Cool. So now if I hit refresh, See how I have this view, right? And this view would be top 100 because that's how I created it, limit to 100. So again, this is a workaround. So now if I go back to my crawler, let's create another crawler. Let's call this Redshift view cells, right? Because that's just what it is. Yup. This is coming from my Redshift. This would be dev public cells. My bad. What did I call it? VW cells for view. Let me make sure I did call it. Yep, VW cells. No. Choose my IAM. Run on demand. This is under the SharePoint database. Let hit finish. So now let me go ahead and run this one. Run this crawler. So again, this is a workaround, at least from a, if there's a specific data set that maybe you want to get a like top 100, and then you could order it in the view. Which honestly, this is probably the better way, because I think if you don't do it this way, what would happen is, if you do it within the Python script, you're trying to limit your results, which we should be able to do as well. The only problem I see with that is you're gonna have to pull. So let's, again, kind of going back. Let's say you have a table that has 10 million records in it, right? 10 million rows. But out of the 10 million rows, maybe you just want 10,000. Let's just say that. Well, if you do it within Python, what's most likely is going to happen is you're going to be pulling all of the data back, and then within Python, you're going to limit it to 10,000 rows only. But you're bringing all of that data over first, and then you're going to have to limit it in Python. With a view, which is what I just did right now, I limited my results in the view to 100, for example. Or in that scenario that I'm talking about, it could be limited to 10,000. So that means the data would only pull 10,000 to begin with only, right? So there's no need to exclude a lot of the records within Python to limit the results. So this is running. Hopefully it's a little bit quicker than the other one. So once this finishes, we'll create a job real quick. Damn, what happened here? Why did these error out? I don't think we had any errors. What happened? Oh, this is that. Never mind. I know why. This is the damn Excel file. That's why it errored out. The job must have ran and the Excel file was there. Which again, I need to delete it. But that's a different issue. There's nothing wrong with the actual job. Let me go back to see if this is done. Damn, this one took about 4 minutes. So this one's still. I would say the services at night seem to be running a little bit slower, and probably because they're probably doing maintenance at night and stuff like that. So that's my guess. And why it normally doesn't take this long. It should be a lot quicker. It should be more like 2 minutes or less, not 4 minutes. So let's see. Have they hit the 2-minute mark yet? Nope, still going. Okay, while that's going though, and that's because it's going to take a few more minutes, let's go to our job right quick. I just kind of want to walk through the SharePoint, or my bad, Redshift. What do we call it? Sales. Redshift. Well, I guess I'll probably just call it Sales. Redshift to S3, right? So the other one, which is the full data set. So again, it's under Python 3. Let me click on max workers. It's going to be 2 standard for my work type. So this is where I'm going to click on. See, I have dev public cell. Then this is the view. I'm going to click on the normal one for now. Change schema. create table and data target, and this would be an S3 bucket. See right here what says format? We have JSON. We could do CSV, right? So CSV would be the format that we want it to be. Then we could select a. Before I do that, let me create a new folder. I'm gonna create a folder in here. We're gonna call this. Let's call it unload, right? That's where we're gonna unload data. So it's called unload. So if I go back to this, let's go ahead and find that folder, the unload folder. Yeah, that's fine. Unload is fine. No, you know what? What I should have done, let me go to unload. I should have created another folder in here where this would be called sales, right? Because that's sales data that we're going to unload. So I'm going to call it sales. Now let me go back. Unload sales. Yep, that's where I wanted to go to. Hit next. So see, same concept where we got our mapping. We can make our changes here if you want to change the name or whatever, the data types. But for right now, it does have, you know, all the data types match. So let's assume we keep it the same. Save job and edit script. And really on this one, I think we should be good. We could take it as is. I'm going to save it. And let's go ahead and run job. Let's run this job. So now this job is running, which is sales Redshift to S3 bucket. We see it running. And ultimately what should happen is in this bucket under sales, we should see a few files. Not going to be one file. Normally what the process does, it would generate, depends on how big the table is, but it breaks it up in different files. It does that because it's easier to process. When you need to process files, it's better to have many files because if you have different workers or different threads, for example, it's able to process many files at once instead of just working on one file. So we'll see many files get generated here. But again, it's going to generate it in a CSV format, which is kind of what you want, right? Your request is we want data from Redshift to an S3 bucket, but we want it in CSV. In this example, we're bringing all of the data, but as you saw, I did create a view which is limited to only 100 records. And then I did create a crawler. So if I go back, where's my crawler at? There it goes. See, now it's done. My crawler for this. So if I go to table, boom, here it goes right here. This is limited to 100 records only. So if I were to run, create a job that's pulling from this table and loading it to an S3 bucket, it's only going to bring in 100 records because that's what the view was set up for, 100 records. So let's see if this job is done yet or not. There it goes, it's done. So now if I go to my cells, hit refresh, boom, here's our files. So you could tell we have a lot of files. I don't know how big the table was. I guess I probably should have checked this public cells. Let's do a count of how big this table is. So there you go. Damn, it's so we're dealing with 172,000 rows. What's in that table? Okay, so let me just click on one. We're gonna click on one, and let's download it. All right, let me go ahead and download the file, and then this is really a text file. It is a CSV file, so let's go ahead and add CSV to it, and then let's go ahead and open it up and take a look at it. So you could tell this is a true CSV file format, right? That's what it is. We have all of our data. We have time, events. Why so many files? Question mark. And is it CSV format? So it is CSV format, and let me show you, just kind of so you kind of get confirmation. It doesn't have an extension. Because it doesn't have the extension, the reason why the system doesn't recognize it as CSV because there's no extension. But remember, CSV is text. So and at the end of the day, whether it be XML, JSON, CSV, it doesn't matter. They're all text files. You don't have to have an extension at the end because they're all text at the end of the day. So even if I were to open this up in a text editor like Sublime Text, right? So let's open this up. Open with where's Sublime Text at? There you go, Sublime Text. There you go. See, as you can tell, this is a comma delimited file. You have your header, and then of course you have all of your rows, and you got the comma separating each one, right? So even though it doesn't show the extension, it is a text file and it is CSV because we configured it to be a CSV format. That's was my concern. It did not save in CSV because say other teams want to access our S3 bucket, the file should be CSV. So the file is CSV. So again, when I say CSV, I'm not talking about visually it's CSV. I mean like the actual data is a comma delimited file, like the format, right? What makes a CSV file a CSV is not necessarily the extension of the file. That's more just for visual reference, pretty much. That's all it is. Let me rephrase it. It's a little bit more than that. Besides visual reference, it helps applications like Microsoft or other applications know the file format, so it knows like to open it up a specific way. But besides that, it's all technically the same data, right? Whether the extension says it or not. Now, I think in your case, I know what you're saying, like, okay, well, it's beneficial to at least have it visually just to kind of, so people know that it's a CSV file. I think to fix that, we would have to tweak the script. And we could do that later in the next live stream. I know it's already, we're kind of past the 11 o'clock time frame, but I don't think that's a big issue to be able to tweak it so the file names do contain that .csv at the end. But at the end of the day, it is CSV, right? Remember, the data what makes it CSV, not the file extension. Like the file name doesn't make it a CSV file, but the data itself is what makes it a CSV, data set. And should have extensions, not manually adding extensions. I agree. Again, having extensions is beneficial just from a visual standpoint to know what it is, what file type you're dealing with. But again, just keep in mind though, the data itself technically still is CSV. Like nothing has changed within the data, right? The data still is valid and it is a CSV file. But I agree, it just does make things a little bit easier to visually know through the file extension that it's a CSV file, because it does make it easier for applications, right? Even like right now, if I try to open this up, it doesn't know how to open it. And it's asking me, hey, which application you want to use? So I would have to click on Excel. And Excel, like, hey, it doesn't match what we normally open this, like know this to be. But I could say, go ahead and open it up anyways. And then, of course, it'll try to open it up and it will. But you're right. It should have it just because it does. There is some benefit to having it, put it that way. Yes, understood. Let's aim to have CSV extension. The next live, we're on Tuesday. All right, cool. I'll try to be on Tuesday on a live stream, but on Tuesdays though, my live streams, if I do have one, it will be early. It will be an early live stream. Probably be around like 11 or noon in the daytime. So just kind of FYI on that. But nevertheless though, yeah, I think for sure we could look at this and then, whether it be next Friday or on Tuesday, it doesn't matter. We could kind of review and add that extension to it. But just keep in mind, though, you could do it. You could add CSV files, like export as CSV, because that's kind of what we did now. And then, again, kind of going back to I think you asked about this, about the file name. So you could, and there are some reasons why maybe it doesn't make sense to export it out in one file name. We would have to tweak the script. But we could do that. We could have it where everything exports out under one file name. Again, on the next live stream, we'll walk through that, and I'll show you how to do that. So when it does generate the extract, it's one file. The reason why it doesn't do it that way, this is more just FYI for you to know. Anytime that you're extracting data out, and let's say it's part of a pipeline that ultimately going to consume that data somewhere else, it makes sense to have mini files. I know it may sound crazy, like, well, man, why does it make sense to have mini files compared to one big file. Because a lot of these services, when they run, they're actually processing. They're able to process a lot of these files in the same time. But when you only have one big file, you cannot share that process. Like you cannot, pretty much, you need to like process that one file in a iteration to be able to extract all the data. Where when you have tons of files available, you could have like services that run like in your pipelines that literally could process many files all in the same time to load it to, the next process of the pipeline, which is kind of why it makes sense. Hey, what's up, Sam? Hey, Lou, I have a question on the previous video. How to pass the required variables do the triggers instead of using the environment variables in Lambda function. I see what you're saying. So I think we actually talked about this a little bit, which is like the way it's set up now, it works fine for one pull, right? Like from one SharePoint folder and to one S3 bucket. But you're right, it's not ideal where if you're going to be pulling from multiple folders in SharePoint and they're going to be getting loaded to different folders or subfolders in S3 bucket. Let me look into that, because there is a way to do it, which the option would be make it HTTPS, and because it's HTTPS, you could actually pass arguments through the URL or the body of the post, and then that way that would be a way to consume these variables to again have one Lambda function, but that would ultimately run like pull different files from different folders, right? Because your arguments in your URL or in your body of the post of the URL would have those arguments will be part of that request. The only thing about that option though would be you would have to call the URL, right? I don't know if it would be able to be triggered the same manner. It would be more of a again, kind of like an API request, right? Like it would be a URL request that would have to get executed to know when to run. Then when it does run, then of course it'll take in those arguments in the URL to know which SharePoint folder and then which S3 bucket ultimately to load it into. So that I know that will work. I'm just not sure if that really is the option that you want, like to convert the Lambda function to a URL Lambda function. But if that works for you, then that would be the way to do it. Because then it would just be a matter of passing in arguments through the URL, and then of course we'll tweak the script to get those arguments. Then of course pass those in as variables in the script. But the way we have it today, it's more on schedule based, where it kind of runs on schedule. Because of that, I would need to see if there's options to either pass in some kind of I would need to look into a little bit more. But again, if HTTPS works to execute the Lambda script, then I could make a video showing how to pass in arguments to consume it. So let me know if that works or not. But if that doesn't work, I do need to look into it, do a little bit of testing to see how to do it using event bridge as a trigger, but how to have different arguments, right? To be able to run the same script, of course, but multiple jobs at the end of the day, right? That's the piece I need to look into a little bit. All right, guys. Well, man, we had a good live stream, man. I gotta say, I mean, we are past time. It's already about to be 11:30, so I'm actually gonna be on Twitch here in a few minutes. Fridays, I do a lot of streaming. I probably stream a good 5-6 hours on Fridays. Here on YouTube, programming. Always have fun, man. Talking to y'all. It's always good on digging in, solving these problems, and figuring things out. Again, I don't know everything. There's some stuff that I'm learning as well, but again, we'll figure it out together. and we'll get things to work like always. Again, guys, next live stream, I'm going to try to be on this Tuesday, but it will be early. Be probably around 11 or 12 p.m. But nevertheless, on Fridays, always on schedule, guys. Always on schedule. And again, what we do on Fridays on the live stream to try to solve these problems. So if you do have questions and problems, come and join the live stream, guys, for real. And this is where we try to walk through and try to test, like live test, see what works, what doesn't work. And we try to figure out, figure out these problems pretty much, or try to solve your problem. That's what we try to do. So yeah, guys, again, appreciate it and everything. Let's see, Sam, I tried passing arguments using step functions and made slight changes in Lambda code to use event.get. Did you have any success with that, or was that not successful, I guess, doing it that way? Thanks for the video. Those are very interesting and helpful. Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. Again, I'm live every Friday from 9 p.m. to around 11, sometimes a little bit later, like today. So some of the questions that you do have that maybe you want to try to figure out, join the live stream, man. That's what we do here. We'll try to like walk through it live, and we'll test it out, and we'll see what works, what doesn't work, and to try to solve your problem. And that's kind of like the whole purpose of the live streams, for real. So again, guys, thanks for joining. Appreciate it, guys. And I'm about to join on Twitch in a few